Okay, well, I have 6:30, so I am going to call this meeting into session. The first thing on the agenda is to consider the minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone have any changes, additions to the last meeting, which was way back in March, longer ago than I can remember? Any changes or additions?
Not for me.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
A second?
Second.
Okay, I'm going to go around and call everyone's name, as this will be both to vote on the minutes, but also as a roll call for Joe for the official meeting minutes. So, Angeline? Okay. Chris?
I approve.
Elise?
Approve.
Fayez?
Approve.
Hem?
Approve.
Justin?
Approve.
Caitlin? Renata?
Approve.
Ryan?
Approve.
Scott?
Approve.
Terry? Tim? Tim, I think I heard you, Tim.
Yeah, approve. Sorry.
Okay, Tom?
Approve.
Okay. All right, Joe, did you get all those?
Yes.
Okay. So the next thing on our agenda is the City Center Futures Project. Sean, do you want to introduce this?
Yes, thanks, Kate. So good to be with you all. It's been quite some time. A lot has happened since our last meeting in March. And I don't know if you heard the discussion before, but if you have any questions or comments, you can just speak up. I would rather not use the chat function or the public records headache it causes. So yeah, the City Center Futures Project. We talked about this a little bit, I think, in March, just that we were going to do it. But there's kind of three parts to this project, and I'll let our guest consultant speak to that in a minute. But basically, we wanted to assess the future of downtown, the future of the City Center Urban Renewal District. And we hired Johnson Economics, which is a real estate urban renewal consultant group. And they've completed basically the first task and are in the middle of the second two tasks. Also working with Sarah Architects on those other two tasks. So instead of repeating what Brendan's going to cover, I'll just turn it over to Brendan Buckley, who works for Johnson Economics.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me. This is Brendan Buckley. I'm with the firm of Johnson Economics. We're working with Sarah Architects on this project. They're not, they weren't involved in the part we're talking about today, but you'll be hearing from them in the future. So yeah, Sean gave a slight just refresher on what's going on with the City Center Futures Project, looking at the future of that TIF district and the vision for the downtown. It has three major components. The first part, which we'll talk about today, is looking at sort of the technical future of the TIF district itself, looking at its ability to generate revenues to accomplish the projects and the vision as laid out over the remaining time period it has, and some options for what to do there. And that's what we'll talk about tonight. The other two components of this project are to update the Downtown Redevelopment Action Plan. So that's going to be talking about a set of steps and recommended actions to not just in terms of the urban renewal projects to pursue, but a whole range of different approaches to encourage the types of redevelopment downtown that have been part of the vision since the beginning. And then the third part of that is related, which is updating the downtown vision and coming up with an agreement and a new sort of refreshed vision for what can happen, reflecting what's happened already, and then some major things coming, most notably the planned light rail station, which is going to, is really a new thing to add to the mix. Also, the potential for new plans for the city's own properties around Burnham and Hall. So there's some major things to throw in there that may change the vision going forward. So we'll be working on a series of workshops and so on to update that. And we'll be talking to you folks and the the TCDA more about that in the coming months. Tonight we want to talk about what's happened with the first task 1, and that was looking at the urban renewal area, the TIF district itself, looking at what's left to do there and what its sort of remaining capacity is. And what we did there was we looked at a series, 3 different potential options for what the future of that district might look like. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. I have very can you see that? Application window.
No.
No. Okay. I'll keep working on that. So we looked
I
at.
think you need to request a permission from Joe.
Huh.
Yeah, to able to share your screen. Yeah, I'm assuming Joe is the administrator.
Okay. Are you there, Joe? I'm gonna go ahead. The slides that I had are very basic, and I was going to speak to them anyway. So the 3 options that we looked at are option 1, which is to increase the maximum indebtedness and duration of the current TIF district to kind of extend what it can do into the future. The current district is set to expire in just about 6 years, and it is used. It's drawn down roughly, not even half of its originally envisioned maximum indebtedness. So there's quite a bit of capacity left there, and quite a bit of projects and things that were envisioned at the outset that are yet to be done. And so option 1 is really about what can be done with extending the current district. The other 2 options looked at what it might mean to let the current district expire and create a new, likely expanded district, greatly expanded, to make it larger, increase the amount of maximum debt that it could take on, and extend the duration into the future. And option 2 looked at the possibility of closing the current district early, kind of getting a jump start on that process and creating a new larger district. And option 3 looked at the possibility of letting the current district reach its end in 2026, 27, and then creating a newer, larger district. So there are a few things weighing on these different choices. Sort of the statutory limits that apply to urban renewal, as well as the sort of parameters of the current urban renewal area, and also the Tigard Triangle area as well. So one of the statutory limits is that the total amount of space in the city dedicated to TIF districts can be no more than 15% of the city's assessed value, and no more than 15% of the city's total acreage. When we look at the current downtown TIF district and the Tigard Triangle combined, you're well under those limits. So there is capacity to increase, to expand the size of the downtown district if that were desired. There are some other limits on what you can do with an existing district. You can't expand the boundary more than 20%, and that with the substantial amendment that the downtown district underwent in 2017, you basically used up that 20%. And so with the current district, you really can't expand it physically. You've used up the statutory limit on that. And the only way to expand it would be to essentially create a new district. There's also a limit on the amount of, you can raise the maximum debt on an existing district, and you can increase it by 20% over the life of the plan and no more. So if you were to pursue option 1 and increase the debt in the current district, that would be limited to 20% adjusted for inflation, which would be an additional over $6 million, $6.5 million. So these are some of the statutory limits that restrict what you can do with either existing or new districts. We looked at, in terms of possible expansion areas for options 2 and 3. I'll try one more time to see if I can get a share going here.
Is anyone else hearing like really bad static?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is someone? Is it the call that's being called in on by the presenter? I missed the name because I grabbed my dinner real quick. I don't know if someone called in. Maybe it's really bad static.
It could be Brendan.
Do you hear it when I talk or all the time?
Yeah, it's really bad. It's hard to concentrate or hear what you're saying. Static every time you talk.
Okay. Is this any better?
No.
Okay. I'm going to have to try to call in on the phone line. One moment.
Hey, Brendan,
Yes.
you can send me those images and I can share the screen. Email them to me if you're able.
Okay, I will. One minute.
Always got to expect some technical difficulties.
Always. I ran a webinar the other day and I had about 1,200 people on it, and the speaker couldn't unmute themselves. It was a very long couple of minutes before we got back there.
Getting a little bit of distortion with you too, Kate.
Ooh.
Its sound is also coming. I think it's still Brendan. There it went away. He muted. That was Brendan.
Yeah,
Oh, I see. Okay.
that's better.
Okay, now your sound comes clear.
Hello, I just joined on the call. Can you hear me?
Yay, much
Yes.
better.
That's a lot better.
All right. Sorry about that. I have called in on the landline. Hopefully that's much better.
Yeah, you just have to speak up a little bit though.
Okay. Now, Sean, I'm going to send you I will send you the slides. I'm sorry, everyone, for this. It'll take just one more minute here. So we studied a range of expansion areas to look at how it might affect future TIF potential. We looked at areas around the current TIF district downtown area, and then we actually looked at a corridor all the way up to the Washington Square area. All the areas that we looked at combined are too large. the city wouldn't have the option of expanding in all of those areas, but it was more to take a sample of different types of areas and look at how they might perform. So what we found is that looking at the idea of expansion versus extending the current district, there we are. There's a real advantage to trying to preserve the existing TIF district in the downtown and increasing its maximum debt and duration. And the real sizable advantage that it has is that it has already developed quite a bit of tax increment since its adoption in 2006. And while in some ways we know that the hopes for the downtown district in terms of producing TIF revenue were a little bit higher, but they have really started to pick up steam. And so the existing district now has annual TIF revenues of over $500,000, and that's only projected to grow, obviously. And so it kind of has a sizable advantage from the start line in terms of building on what's there and increasing that TIF rather than trying to start over. And so what we found through running models of the TIF generation of the current district versus expanded districts is that it takes, even for a greatly expanded TIF district, it takes a good amount of time, almost 20 years, for the much larger district to even catch up to the total amount of TIF generation that the current district could generate in the next 20 years. Sean, could you show the next slide? Those are the expansion areas we looked at. If you're curious, they all performed a little differently. Washington Square had obviously the most capacity, perhaps unsurprisingly, to generate a lot of TIF revenue. The area that's marked B is a residential area kind of south of the current downtown. It also has quite a bit of value there to generate TIF, but at the same time, it doesn't have a ton of redevelopment potential because those are single-family neighborhoods, unlikely to see a lot of extensive redevelopment. So we ran the projections on all of these areas, and so like I said, after examining these, the recommendations that we arrived at were that looking at a approach of maintaining the current downtown district and seeking to increase its maximum indebtedness and changing the plan duration so that it becomes open-ended is probably the best approach for getting things accomplished over the next 20 years or so. The other advantage is that if you were to end the current district and create a new district, you have to, the current area has to pay off the indebtedness that's already been incurred before a new plan district could really even get going. So you've already going to be losing a few years there, maybe even quite a few years, paying off the current indebtedness before you can even create a new plan that covers the same area. So that's where we've come down on our recommendations. What that means is that to increase the maximum indebtedness is under the plan, the urban renewal plan, is a substantial amendment. So like the update in 2017 to the plan, it will include, or I'm sorry, would include going to the voters and asking to increase that maximum indebtedness. As I stated, there's a limit of increasing that indebtedness 20%, but there's actually a way to ask for the other taxing jurisdictions that apply to this area to give concurrence to raising it more than the 20%. So another part of our recommendation is that the agency consider whether or not they'd want to go speak to the other jurisdictions and ask if they wouldn't mind waiving that 20% so that the maximum indebtedness can be increased more, allow for a broader, more investments in a broader project list going forward. And then to increase the plan duration and update the project list, those are actions that can be undertaken by the agency and approved by the city council. So urban renewal plans are not actually, they're no longer required to have a distinct end period or duration. The way that the laws have been amended over time is really the maximum indebtedness is supposed to operate as the limit on the ultimate limit on how long the district lasts. So so that part of basically waiving the duration and updating project lists can be done by the agency. So those are the recommendations. That was a lot to cover. I will stop there maybe and ask if there are questions about that. Sean, was there anything that I missed that you'd like to add?
I think you covered it well.
Thank you.
So just so that I understand, this is Kate. When you say you were talking about increasing the max indebtedness, and I wasn't sure I understood, the voters need to approve the increasing the max, and the stakeholders within the current urban renewal district have to concur, or you need one or the other?
You need to go to the voters no matter what.
Okay.
That's required because it's a substantial amendment.
Yes.
If you want to increase the maximum debt more than 20%, then you also need to seek concurrence from the four, I believe it's the four largest taxing jurisdictions. So not literally all of them, but the four that sort of have the most tax revenue to forego.
Yes.
And you need approval of 3 of the 4.
Okay.
And the city is one of those, right?
Yes.
The city and I assume TV Walton Valley Fire District is one.
Yep. The school district.
Yeah.
School district.
And the fourth biggest one, I'd have to check.
Is that
Oh,
Comcast?
Washington County.
Washington County. Okay. Okay.
So,
This is Angeline. So if we want to go beyond the 20%, sounds like we have to get concurrence from the neighboring jurisdictions. Is there a limit to how much you can ask, or is it kind of a negotiated amount?
There is not a limit specified in the statute, no. So in theory it could be as large as you want. And it's obviously, comes down to negotiation probably, or what seems like an appropriate ask.
Right.
Question by Elise. Sean?
Oh, go ahead.
Hi. What is the projected population increase in Tigard going to be over the next 20 years with development?
There's a lot of growth out in River Terrace that we know of, and the Tigard Triangle has quite a large number of apartment buildings in the pipeline.
Okay, because one of the reasons that I am concerned is if we're asking for more tax dollars, especially from the school district, are they going to be building another school in North Tigard with the development of the Tigard Triangle? And they already have a plan for a new school down in the River Terrace area, so.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll have to go to them, and I think they have a good handle on how much new development there is.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, school districts, since the state has a kind of equalized funding formula, they are not directly impacted by an urban renewal district. Maybe in the aggregate of all the urban renewal districts over the state, they are, but an individual urban renewal district doesn't impact them because of this statewide funding formula.
Okay, I understand.
But we will definitely have to talk to them and get their
Because
understanding of that.
our projected population growth is going to make a difference on how this new increased tax burden will be received. So,
At least this is a Councilor Goodhouse.
yes.
To answer the question, kind of just a rough projection. I think we're looking at going from 50 to 70,000 in the next decade or two for overall population.
That's good.
But with change in the downtown Tigard urban renewal district, a lot of the growth, as Sean was saying, is going to be in River Terrace. There's going to be with the Washington Square project. There's going to be that. So a lot of these the population growth are going to be outside of that boundary. So by expanding or extending the debtness of the downtown Tigard, unless there was going to be a planned boom of population growth in that area, it's not going to affect the school district as much because, as Sean said, part of it does come from the come from the state, but part does come from the properties here. So there's going to be expansion of the triangle, but that one's already in place, and that one's not going to change because that one's got the 188 million for 25 years. So just by redoing the downtown urban renewal district or expanding it, won't have probably much of an effect on the in correlation with what the population growth is going to be compared to what that project is there, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it makes sense. It's just because the original Lowe's property was a school that was sold to Lowe's property that was sold. And so now redevelopment in North Tigard, especially with increased population in the Tigard Triangle, and if we ever incorporate the unincorporated area north of Tigard, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm thinking about. So I'll let it go to the next person. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
This is him. So each of the districts has a committee of some sort that will approve this 20% increase.
I missed the first part of your question, Ham.
So I heard that you said that these top 5 districts will have to approve this increase in funding.
So yeah, if we want to go increase the maximum indebtedness by more than 20%, we have to get the approval of 3 out of the 4 biggest taxing jurisdictions that overlap with the district.
Oh, I see. So these jurisdictions, they have a committee of some sort that will approve it, or voters will have to approve it?
Right. Each of those jurisdictions have their own boards. You know, the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue has a board, the school district has a board, Washington County. So we would have to make a presentation to their board and get their approval.
Okay, thanks.
And just to repeat, the any increase in the maximum indebtedness also has to go to the voter.
Right.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to kind of wrap up this part.
I have one last
Sure.
sort of question. I don't know that we know this today, but will the current tax situation change with what we're seeing with the COVID, the recession and the issues, the tax issues around the COVID shutdown? We probably don't know what that's going to look like yet, but will that have an impact on the district?
That's a great question. I think because it's property taxes, it may not, certainly not as big an impact as there would be if a jurisdiction was relying on income taxes or sales taxes. But Brendan, have you heard anything on that? Potential effects on property tax receipts from COVID?
I haven't heard anything. I was going to say exactly what you said, which is that because this is property tax based, it's going to be much less sensitive to this kind of shock, especially because with the tax limitations from the 90s, a lot of taxes are, the rate of increase has been held down for a long time anyway. And so there's just things would have to get pretty dire in the real estate market before people, I think, start to seek reassessments of their property and that kind of thing to lower their tax base. So right now we don't anticipate anything like that, but then of course this is fairly unanticipated event, so
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So just to wrap this part up, go ahead.
Okay. Tom Murphy here. Brendan, this was the first of 3 issues that, as I understand it, Johnson Economics is addressing. Do you anticipate coming back before the commission? And if so, when on issues 2 and 3?
Yes, so we do. We plan to talk to come back to you folks on the next steps and the TCDA as well. The timing is looking like we'll probably, I'm guessing, be getting back to you in the August to September timeline. It's possible that we might have something else to share in July, but that's what the timeline sort of looks like at this point.
Right, and there's a one of the parts of this project is updating the downtown vision. So working with Sarah Architects, and we're strongly considering having a kind of an online work session, kind of a charrette, at either taking place of the next TCAC meeting or maybe overlapping with the TCAC meeting, starting possibly at 5:30 or 5 o'clock, something like that, so we can get a large amount of the TCAC members involved. We haven't talked to Kate about that. It's an idea that just came up in the past couple of days, but we definitely will be hoping to engage with you on that downtown vision update. And as for the this recommendation about the urban renewal district, as of now, it's a recommendation. We will need to come back to you with next steps and then take it to the TCDA board in August or September.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is Ryan. I would love to be part of a charrette for the downtown vision.
Great. Yeah, we would probably invite other stakeholders as well, a couple TCDA board members, and other other city committee members as well. But we would like to have as many TCAC commissioners attend as well, because you guys know the downtown the best.
I will add that to my list for the next agenda setting meeting.
Great.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is a review of the TCDA budget.
Okay. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, everyone.
So yes, the TCDA budget, we last talked about this in February. And since then, the budget went to the TCDA Budget Committee, which is the same makeup as the citywide Budget Committee. That being the members of the TCDA board / city council, and then 6 other city residents volunteers. So the budget was in your packet, and let me get to the cut to the chase of the actual budget. It did change a little bit since the last time you saw it.
Huh?
Here we go. And in the city center, the biggest change was in the Main Street, Green Street urban renewal contribution. I think the last time we talked, we were talking just about 100,000. Well, now it's 1.1 million.
Whoa!
And so the reason that happened is that, well, talk about effects of COVID. A lot of this project was going to be paid for by the gas tax. And since people aren't driving anywhere, the gas tax has taken a large hit.
Yikes.
So it was decided that urban renewal could fill that for now. And that came out of the Universal Plaza budget. But then $1 million would be increased in Park SDC funding. So our budget is remaining whole. We're just kind of moving funds around. But that was a sort of an emergency need. But again, that $1 million that came out of urban renewal, the Universal Plaza project will be backfilled by Park SDC. So the project will remain whole. As for the triangle, the biggest change there is that we have this Highway 217 multi-use path contribution.
Yes.
We amended the urban renewal plan last month to add that project, and we've proposed $2.5 million, fully aware that we are not going to be spending that money next year, except maybe on some planning. This is considered to be seed money for us to show when we go out for grants, and we have several different grant applications in the fire as we speak. And TriMet is cooperating with us in trying to obtain that money. The whole project has been estimated costing $10 to $12 million. So the 2.5 would be the TIF district's contribution, and would cover the section that's actually in the urban renewal district. Everything else is pretty much the same as the last time we saw you. We have 3.8 million slotted for park acquisitions, and then $1 million for Affordable Housing Development Fund. Remember, these were the 2 biggest priorities that came out of the new Tigard Triangle process. And then we have some smaller, well, not smaller. We have $1 million for redevelopment assistance. That's still that 72nd and Dartmouth mixed-use project that we pledged $1 million in SDC assistance, and then a $100,000 for an opportunity fund.
Hey, Sean, could I go back to the Highway 217 project for a second?
Yes.
Sorry, this is Ryan. Does that involve the Highway 217 crossing in any way, or is it intended to leverage federal funding for a crossing like that, or TriMet funding?
Yeah, so this is the multi-use path that would be built as part of the light rail viaduct that would go over 217. TriMet has agreed to plan for that, but they've made it clear that they don't have money in the budget to pay for that multi-use path. So that's why we're looking at getting funding from grant sources and different funds that might be out there.
Great. So this is the URA's contribution to that effort, essentially.
Yes.
Great. Thanks.
Sure.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think so. And there's a vote in the fall, I think this is still going on, that would kind of determine the future of that light rail project.
Yeah.
I've heard about that.
So any questions on the triangle projects or the city center? This budget is actually scheduled to be approved by council next Tuesday. So it's gone through the process. TCDA budget committee approved it, but the city council still has to adopt this budget along with the rest of the city budget.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move on.
Yes, so next on the agenda is a project update. Looks like there's lots going on, Sean.
There is. Well, it's been a while. So Main Street at Fano, things we're looking really good. Their building permits are being reviewed and are basically ready to be issued. But their financing hit a bump because of COVID. We've actually heard this from several developers, including the Dartmouth and 72nd developer, who are, those are big developers, big players, and even they were kind of subject to this freezing of financing going on. But things sound like they might be thawing up a bit. But in the meantime, the developers asked for a 6-month extension of the DDA, and on May 12th, the board approved that. So we're looking at a October 12th start to the project. And they have an interim item they need to do in 3 months, I believe, of proving that the financing is on the way. Universal Plaza is another project that. Oh,
I got a question. Sorry, this is Chris. About that extension. I mean, we've granted them a lot of extensions, and 6 months seems to be very extensive. So, this is, I don't know. I mean, you hear a lot of business owners talking downtown why they're getting all of this. Why don't we just give them a deadline at this point instead of them jerking us around with extensions and excuses?
Well, it is frustrating that it's taken this long. But I think, staff and our advisors and the board ultimately decided that 6 months was appropriate in this case because of the, extraordinary circumstances that have occurred. And, 6 months, they may not need the entire 6 months, 6 months at the outside, but that's what we're going with. If we did go for another developer, it would probably take another 18 months to 2 years to get where we are now. So I think it makes more sense to see if this plays out in 6 months.
What if they come back in 6 months and they say, well, everything has changed now and we're no longer pursuing this? Why not just open it up and whoever gets in there first gets it?
Well, I certainly hope that's not the case. But we'll, I don't think the TCDA board's patience is infinite. If we have bad news in 6 months and they ask for another extension, I can't speculate what would happen, but
can we
we might need to reassess
that this is the last extension they're getting? They only have 6 months and that's it. If they don't do anything with it, there's no more extensions. Can we limit that at this point?
Well, in 3 months, they need to show progress that they're getting their financing in place. So that's a time where we can kind of lay down the law. If they're not showing that financing is in the pipeline, then there's going to be.
But can it be said that is a decision that the TCAC makes maybe tonight, that we say, okay, you got 3 months, show financing, and then you have another 3 months, and then you have to be in permit. Instead of waiting this out and keep on going with these extensions, like that we finally just say, this is your deadline, and if you don't do this, no more extensions, come to an end with this.
Mm-hmm. Comment, Sean, by Elise.
Yes.
Hi, Chris. I'm going to, hopefully everybody remembers our last recession in 2008, because of all the freezing of the financials that took place. It took 2 to 3 years for developers to get the financing to recuperate with that mortgage crisis. And it took 5 years for our district to come back from that recession. And so as long as this recession doesn't get any worse and that the building and construction state remains an essential service, hopefully the finances will pick up with the building. But just remember what happened in 2008, and it took us 5 years to come back total, and the developers, a lot of them didn't survive. So Ava Rosaria is a very high quality business developer, and I would like to personally give them that 6 month allowance to hopefully get everything together and get going again, just because of where we were before. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, that's what our the amendment says, that they have 6 months, and then they could come back and ask for more. But again, I don't think the board will necessarily be as look favorably upon it. And I think this recession is hopefully different than 2008 in that it's a temporary freeze until we know what's happening with COVID. And I think we're already seeing some loosening up of the financing markets, but it is very true that for new projects anyway, financing was completely put on hold. And that, again, I'll mention that the 72nd and Dartmouth project, which involves some heavy hitters, they were told by their financiers that you guys need to cool your heels for a while.
Tom Murphy here. Sean, is it, and I guess I addressed this question to Councilor Goodhouse as well, is it possible that before a further extension is granted, that the TCAC be, 1, informed, and 2, given an opportunity to weigh in?
Is that a question for me or for Councilor Goodhouse?
For anybody who cares to pick it up.
Yeah, we can certainly have an exec session and let you guys know if there's another amendment being requested. Ultimately, the board has to decide.
That would have to. A lot of the discussions, a lot of the things being talked and discussed on this are exec sessions. So I'm not sure how that would work as far as incorporating the TCAC in some of those discussions. But it's something definitely that the TCAC I believe would be able to also weigh in on before the because the council would have to be at a council meeting and have to make that in public anyways, that extension. So it's something that TCAC could also weigh in on it as well.
Yeah, I'm requesting that the TCAC be given that opportunity. It's my sense of the way this is presented that the 6-month extension through mid-October is a fait accompli. This is the first the TCAC is hearing about it.
Yeah, there's been and I agree that the TCAC should be updated and given more information because there's been a couple different things done along the way, and for transparency and communication, it should be involved and communicated, especially since this group focuses on the downtown, to know what's going on, why things are being done, and you know what the also ramifications are sometimes if you don't do some of the extensions. Just kind of a 20,000 overlook on this. Sometimes some of the extensions were written into the contract of what have to be done at certain points. So there are certain parts where you hit certain points that there have to be done. So some of that has to be done, but it's something I agree that this group should be notified and know more about what's going on this, plus other projects as well. If this group's in place, then they should be knowing what's going on and being part of the decisions.
Yeah, this was kind of a last minute emergency. I think we might have only had a 2 or 3 week notice before they told us they needed it.
Okay. Understood.
And I think with us having especially now having more of this technology doing these meetings, I don't, and I leave this to the members, but I don't see why there wouldn't be a reason why you couldn't hold a phone meeting to discuss this with the members. If we do hear things kind of at the last moment, to at least just bring up the date or before it happens to weigh in on it. As this is the whole purpose of this group is to know what's going on, also be involved in these discussions.
Thank you. Kate, could we maybe make a note for the September agenda that this extension will expire? I believe the date was October 12th, and maybe take a look-see at it in September?
Yes, and I just put a note into for our August meeting. That will be 3 months. That'll be that 3-month time frame where they have to show progress. I'll also put a checkpoint on for August.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay. Getting back to the city center projects. Tigard Street Heritage Trail is complete. I don't know if you guys have been out there, but it's looking pretty good. A lot of the art has been installed, and there's a mural being painted. And yes, the restrooms have been installed. I don't know. I think they're open. I think they're open for the farmers market. So that's good news.
Sean, can I get a comment in there real quick? This is Chris again.
Yes.
On the Rotary Plaza, I guess there's a rumor around there that it is not allowed for any vending whatsoever. So we built this plaza knowing that we may not be able to have a farmer's market on there, or food carts or art walk. Anything that has to do with any financial transactions is not allowed. As far as I know, this came up about 3 years ago when the first Taste of Tigard happened. And there was a conflict between, I guess, the city and the ODOT.
ODOT rail.
And so we still proceeded to build this plaza with the intentions of having, you know, part of it used for the art walk or farmers market. And now this plaza will never be able to be used for any events. Yet we installed massive amounts of outlets and such that, you know, cost a lot of money, basically for nothing. Lloyd Purdy said there's actually nothing in the contract that does not allow that. So it should be allowed for vending from Lloyd's perspective, but there's still city staff going around saying no vending allowed. So what are we going to do?
Who's telling you that?
As Lauren Scott, one of your team members.
Yes. Well,
So
I
what are we
need
gonna do
to
about it?
research that. I had thought that that problem had been addressed, but
Has not.
I'm hearing different. I thought it only had to do with alcohol.
Well, alcohol is a different thing, but yes, alcohol has been a conversation as well. But it's a overall like no vending at all. So we can't even have an art booth out there that wants to sell pieces. As far as I hear, but again, there's nothing really in the contract between ODOT and the city, but it's still not allowed to have the farmers market out there. So I just kind of want to have an explanation to what the plaza can be used for, and is there a plan to make that happen, that it could be utilized for events, for the TDA, farmers market, for example, art walk, or other events that may have, you know, maybe planned or come up.
Yeah, let me check on this and get back to you. I wasn't aware that there was a ban on all vending. I thought it was only limited to alcohol. So I will call the people who know for sure and get back to you.
All right, thanks.
So moving on to the Senior Center Affordable Housing. Northwest Housing Alternatives has application in for funding from Washington County, and I believe they hear later this summer. And we are going to be doing a webinar sponsored by the city, NHA, and AARP on June 25th. And we will make sure we send you an invitation to that. It's going to be done through Zoom, and kind of we'll have 3 presenters and have time for questions at the end. We had been planning to do some meetings at the Senior Center, but as you might be aware, the Senior Center has been closed, and it may be one of the last city facilities that opens up. So that's why we're kind of switching to online involvement. And the DDA and the lease are currently under negotiation. We'll need to get those in place once we know for sure that NHA has gotten their funding. Actually, even before that.
Hi, Sean.
Yeah.
Have you heard, because of the funding or the LIHTC on this, the 4%, there is basically the tax credit investment is coming back as much less than what I anticipated. Do you know if there's a larger gap on this project right now and they can afford the project? Because I heard some of developers getting like less than 90 cents on the dollar.
NHA hasn't identified that as an issue. So as far as they're concerned, project is moving ahead. We'll see what happens with the funding application.
Okay.
So a couple more things on the city center. We gave a preliminary urban renewal improvement grant to the ballroom dancing place, which is under new ownership. And then with the Fanno Creek Overlook, council decided to name the project after Councilor Nick Wilson, who passed away recently, and he was kind of the visionary behind this whole idea and drew some of the early images to go along with that. So we will probably not get to start designing that until spring, just because of all the projects that are going on right now. And the City Center Futures you just heard about. Moving on to the Triangle. Are there any questions about any of the City Center projects?
I don't know if people heard about it, but the Max's Fenner Creek pub has.
Yes.
So that's going to be good news for
I'd-
everything happening downtown, I think.
I agree. That was. Sounds
Yeah.
like they have a lot of interesting things planned.
The Cooper Mountain Ale Works, is that the name of the place?
Yeah.
Yeah. Small brewery, but you know, if you have a business, I mean, that's going to be a staple, hopefully, for the downtown. And if you have a business like that, you know, wants to sell, that's obviously not really engaged in the community anymore, wants to get out. So that should bring some new hope to that area. And I think it will be good in the long term.
I agree. And when things get more back to normal too, for all of our restaurants and drinking facilities. So for the Tiger Triangle, new Tiger Triangle phase 2 work will wrap up in August. We have some plans for 70th Avenue that we'll share with you after we let TriMet comment on them, whether they're willing to play along with us or whether they have other ideas. But we can share those, kind of concepts with you probably next month. 70th Avenue is where the light rail line would run down through the triangle until it hits Elmhurst Street, and it would kind of cut over and go over on that viaduct over 217. We're doing some pre-development assistance for SEPA on a potential new project that is in the Tigard Urban Renewal District, although not what we think of as the Triangle. It's on the other side of 99W on a property that is kind of has a driveway that meets 99, but goes back. It's a really deep parcel. And there is a vacant portion of that. It's in back of a RV storage and repair facility. It used to be the place where Raz Transportation had their facility. So SEPA is looking at that as a potential place to build some affordable housing, and the New Tiger Triangle has provided some assistance in studying that site. And then also we have this development assistance guidelines that Leland is going to make recommendations to us and kind of have a program and criteria, and we'll be able to bring that to you next month or the month after that. So when a developer comes in and asks for developer assistance, we have criteria that we can weigh their project against and make a recommendation to the board. Red Rock Creek Commons, which received some TIF funding from us, I believe is still going to be completed in the fall. Dartmouth and 72nd, their building permits are in, they're being reviewed. Actually, they told us what the name of the project is now, so I should probably stop saying Dartmouth and 72nd. It's called the Overland.
The Overland.
Project. The Overland.
Right.
And mixed use path we already discussed. And that mixed use project on 72nd that's up the street from future site of the Overland is completed, and they had a new coffee shop open up, and they're currently leasing up their apartments. 28 apartments, I believe, and 3,000 square feet of commercial space on the bottom.
Sean, the development that's going in on kind of the opposite corner of 72nd and Dartmouth, that lot that was kind of torn up for so long. So
Yes.
They applied for an adjustment. Is that right?
Right. That's going to be senior center. Senior assisted living. 200 units, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was going strong, and I think they also got caught up in the COVID financing freeze, but I believe it's still a go project.
Okay. Yeah, I had gotten it just says that they had requested an adjustment to the access spacing standard on Clinton Street. So there had to be a.
Oh yeah, that's the Overland actually.
Oh, that is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much development going on in the Triangle. It's hard to.
I'm getting
There is another senior housing project that is interested in a lot on Clinton. I think it's 68th, and then there's another Community Development Partners affordable housing is happening on 72nd and Baylor, I think. And the hotel is underway, so a lot of development in the Triangle.
Lots of development. And then the AutoZone.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they are going into the old Babies R Us.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It's going to be a really big one.
Yeah, because they're also asking for an adjustment in because the maximum floor area space, they are exceeding it, so they're asking for an adjustment on that.
Right.
Sean, to go back to the first bullet point under number 1, a new Tigard Triangle. This is phase 2 to wrap up in August. Will there be some kind of deliverable connected with that wrap up? And if so, will that be coming to the TCAC?
Yeah, it will. It's concepts of the top ranked projects. So 78th Avenue and looking at the OEA property and the intersections at Atlanta and 70th and Elmhurst and 70th.
Okay, well, depending on the timing of delivery in August, Kate, could we pencil it in for either the August or the September meeting to look at whatever form that deliverable takes?
Yes.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions? A lot of updates this month.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think the next thing is the city's COVID response, Sean.
Yeah, thanks. So the city, just where we are, Washington County is in the phase 1 of reopening. And city services are kind of, our buildings are closed, but you can still access some of our services. Our dog parks are open, though, as of a couple weeks ago, along with the skate park and tennis courts and some park restrooms. So the city is kind of evaluating about phase 2, which would involve more opening of our facilities. And that's kind of what our executive team is trying to figure out right now. And you're probably also aware that in Washington County and other counties in Oregon, there's some limited reopening of restaurants and bars and personal care services and all of those. What I wanted to talk about is the response that we did with in regards to businesses. We set up a program called Tigard Cares, and we partnered with MISO, which is the Micro Enterprise Solutions of Oregon, and working with them, 94 grants to small businesses that were impacted by COVID were made. These were smaller grants, $1,500. And then there was another slot of money that was for loans, some smaller loans that were administered by MISO, between $500,000 and $9,000, and then some larger loans, $10,000 to $50,000, were made in partnership with Craft 3, which is a kind of a non-profit business advisory group. So about $400,000 in loans were made to 13 local firms, and we have gotten word that there's going to be a new round of funding. We got some money, a small amount of money from Business Oregon, and a much larger capacity from Washington County. I believe that's federal money that's filtering through Washington County. So we're going to be able to offer more grants and loans, and the details on that are going to be announced in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So stay tuned for that. We also have, a smaller project we've been doing is Shop Tigard. I don't know if any of you have seen this, but just kind of talks about what businesses are open this, especially when everything was closed down and people were only open for takeout. Kind of let you know who was open and who was closed. And then we have some smaller funds that are available through our assistance program, Tigard Aid. We're not shutting off anyone's water, I believe, and then there's utility credit, and some fees are being waived. And I guess that's about it for that program. There was also
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah.
To give more details so people know to share it with people.
Yeah.
So the council, we part of the emergency response with COVID, we waived late fees, and so for residential use, anyone that's on unemployment can submit for their utility to get the base water fee waived. They just submit proof that they're on unemployment, and they get that base fee waived. For commercial businesses, we've also done it if they've been impacted by COVID. They can contact utility as well. And those businesses can get their base utility water charge waived as well. And then we've also, with alarm permits, I think it was, or business permits, we've also made it so there's no late fees on those, and they can get an extension on paying those if they need to on those as well. So those are a couple of the programs. So both on the business and residential side, there's some assistance that we've done for those areas.
And then another thing we did is we published this resource guide that talks about some of the city resources that are available, and then other organizations that are also offering services. There's been a lot of questions about, since the library's closed, a lot of people aren't able to access the internet. And so, there's a couple of options offered by internet providers that could help. I believe the library is making their plans for some limited reopening pretty soon.
And not to keep interrupting, sorry. And also with the budget, we did an extra 5,000 for the library to buy additional hotspots for those that may not be having internet, that may have used the library before, but that gives additional hotspots that can be checked out. Currently, I think we have a dozen or 20 that the people can check out, and they have from the library, but we're going to make available more additional hotspots for people that need to check those out and use those.
That's great. I wasn't aware of that. That's good news. So, since March, the city's only city council was meeting. All the other city boards and commissions, other than the budget committee, of course, because that's legally required to meet to pass a budget. We're not meeting, and this June is kind of the first time when any committee that's not the budget or city council have been meeting. Councilor Goodhouse, is there a plan for resuming in-person council meetings? I haven't heard for sure.
I think we're talking about looking at July. I think the beginning of July to resuming in-person council meetings. So probably in about a month, we're going to look at trying to do that.
Great. So one thing I wanted to talk to the commission about was, what would make you feel comfortable about resuming in-person meetings of the TCAC, just to help us figure out when we want to do that.
Sean, Elise here.
Yes.
I would feel comfortable as long as I can be 6 feet away from people, and I think that could be arranged pretty easily with the tables and the configuration somehow that will allow people to have enough adequate distance around the room. You'll just have to make sure speakers are on microphone so that everybody can hear well.
Right. Okay. What are others feeling? Not to put people on the spot, you could think about it and email Kate and I at a later time as well.
First, this is him. Personally, I'm in a high risk category, so I would want to avoid it. This seems to be working fine actually today. It's
Yeah, it's the first. I've done 5 or 6 meetings, staff meetings a day, and did a couple of brief city council presentations. This is the first, full committee meeting we've done online, and yeah, I think it's worked pretty well. There's always some technical hiccups, but
Sean, do you know, is a hybrid format permissible? That is, those attending in person who are comfortable doing so, those who prefer a little more social distancing, participating as we are now?
That's a good question. I think the technology, it's not a technological question. That might be it's what constitutes a quorum. I have to double check that. I think we've made allowances for that in our, kind of the city guidelines, but I'd need to check with our city attorney for sure.
Yeah. It would be my preference to have that flexibility available. For me personally, what Elise said goes for me.
Okay.
I would, Counselor Goodhouse here again, I would presume that since we did our whole budget cycle and we're doing our council meetings all remotely, that I'm sure some kind of hybrid option would work where those that are, they're able to come in, but those that maybe either aren't comfortable or due to, you know, other factors that may be something where it wouldn't be good for them to leave. I would see with the way that the state law has been changed that we can do those, that it would be, I would presume would be fine.
Yeah, when I said the technological would be easy, maybe it wouldn't actually, because the people who are at home would have to be able to hear the people who are at the meeting well. So
we would just do the call-in speaker like we normally do.
Yeah,
We've had
that's
meetings
true.
where we just put the speaker in the middle of the room and we just have people call in.
Okay.
I do have a non-item that I think was on this. I don't know if we're wrapping up soon or not, but let me know when I can jump in on that one.
Okay, yeah, we just have one more thing and then we'll do non-agenda items.
Okay.
So yeah, in terms of you know, I think next month we're probably going to do online meeting just because.
Sean?
Yes.
Sorry, Keelan's listening in, and he just texted me. They haven't tried the hybrid technology yet, so the technology's to be determined, but they are looking into it.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So nevertheless, I think July will be online, especially because you might be having that online charrette type thing, and then we'll kind of assess where we are in August. And if you have further thoughts, you know, I kind of sprung this question on you. Feel free to email me and Kate and just let us know where you are in terms of resuming meeting in person.
The next thing on our list are liaison reports. I don't know that since there haven't been any other commission meetings that we have any, but does anyone have a liaison report for tonight?
I can jump in on behalf of the TDA.
I was hoping you would, Chris.
Obviously, a lot of things have changed, and the TDA is not able to do any of the events probably for the remainder of the year. And so we are trying to come up with new plans and ideas on, first of all, we have a part-time employee and how we keep her busy and employed and still do something for the local businesses and also for the community. So there's a few ideas that we've been throwing around that we're kind of fine tuning, but there's no art walk, there's no street fair, there's no trick or treat. So all of those events basically not going to happen, but we are still working on some ideas to also maintain the grants that we're getting from the city. We're hoping that we're going to be able to keep that and still do something during this time, as it's not feasible to, you know, crowd people up and generate revenue that way. So this will be interesting year for us, and we don't know how that's going to go, but we're working on it. We have monthly board meetings, and probably by the next board meeting, we should have more of a concrete idea on what the TDA is going to do, and basically launch that to the community.
Thank you.
I have an update for Southwest Corridor.
Okay.
Okay. We had a meeting last week with the TriMet general manager, also talking about all the budget pressures that are taking place on TriMet as well as every other level of government. And so they're actually having a budget hearing meeting tonight that was open to people, but of course I'm not attending that. But they're talking about all the things that they are doing right now with the COVID virus to ensure safety for their drivers and their employees, as well as all the passengers, and all the extra measures they're taking, and people they hired just to clean buses nightly and trains, by the way. So they have in August, they'll be making a decision whether to continue to go forward with the transportation, not TriMet, but Metro makes the decision on the transportation 2040 ballot measure.
Oh.
And so that's their last opportunity to either say go or no go in November. And at this point, they are still planning on going, and they're at 30% design. And it's continued preparation and readiness. So we just are in all these meetings still that we're trying to get things done while we're waiting for November. But those are the two big updates right now.
Thank you. Any other updates? I will say that although the bond and levy task force was came to an end, some of the work that it was involved in, there is an update. I'm sure that you have all heard that the police levy did pass, and so that will be enacted at the beginning of next year. So a big thank you to everyone that worked on that effort. So, then the last thing on our agenda are non-agenda items. So, John, here's your slot.
Okay, and I second, I agree. I thank everyone for the police levy last night at council. We approved the results for the or accepted the results for the election. So got that entered and authorized that. The one thing I just wanted to bring up was one thing through the presentations from TriMet, speaking of the Southwest Corridor, is we're trying to work out the details of the Hall Street station. Right now it's looking at only 100 parking spaces with the maintenance yard in the back and not much TOD with transit-oriented development really being discussed, plus whatever the crossing looks like. So there's been some concern that it's not being designed to our liking or what we had in the MOU. So I didn't know if that was something that this group wanted to look at more in detail, especially since we have 15, 30, and 45% the council does kind of approval along the way. But there's been concern from council members and I think staff and everything that it's not getting the proper attention, especially with all the industrial businesses going to be taken out of that. We want proper TOD to take over in there, to have it be a proper station, have crossing that gets into adequate crossing that gets into downtown Tigard.
We did spend some time talking about that one issue, and it's because they're looking at the other stations right now as they work their way down the line towards Tigard. There will be more discussion coming up about that next week in the next couple of months, and we're trying, the Tigard reps in the committee are trying to put pressure on to have more, for the city to have more say in the development of the station and for more development to take place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're supposed to have
this.
this. We're supposed to have the say, but they're not following it. And last week with the TTAC, I made the same comment to them, and they were working on writing a letter to Metro, TriMet, everything like that. It might be something. It's up to you guys, but it might be, if there's something you guys want to, might be advisable to think about discussion what you want that to be, and if you want to send it to those entities to make sure that that is done right. Mm-hmm. Any extra voices help.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea.
I will put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And just to cover that just for a second, at the staff level, we actually have hired an architect and real estate advisor who is helping us make that case to TriMet that we need more TOD and more general care of the alignment and what's going to be best for Tigard, and that's going to work its way through the belly of the beast. But staff at a staff level, we've really been pushing TriMet staff to make allowances for TOD
Yes.
on Hall
Yeah.
and Elmhurst.
What we really need those, I mean, that's great, but what we need is the, what really gets attention is if, it's also, I forgot the steering committee members too. If something is written up, send it to the individual steering committee members, especially like Commissioner Rogers or other people, but send it to council and, Metro and all the different agencies. So it's, the more people that talk about it, then it gets done. If we just stay at the city level, then it might not be as efficient if it comes from everyone and to those different entities.
Yep.
Councilor Goodhouse, Tom Murphy here.
Yes.
Is this commission taking this up at our July meeting soon enough in terms of having that kind of input and having it be as effective as possible?
Sooner would be better, because this is still, they're trying to figure out everything and make determinations. So July is good, but I mean, it's something that could be discussed or have at least maybe some of it worked out, or coordinate with what TTAC is drafting up or something like that. But the sooner, the better. I don't know, Shauna, what your timeline, what you think about with the timeline. But I know they've done a couple presentations to us, and we keep bringing it up. We even brought up the last one where Metro Councilor Dirksen was talking about the upcoming ballot measure and wanting to get support for that. And we mentioned our concern for that too to him, that we need to get that part fixed first.
I will talk to the staff liaison to the TTAC and find out what their letter is about and see if we can join up with that. This question is working its way up. It was actually discussed at the project team leaders meeting today with the other partners in the audience, and it will make its way up to the top there soon.
So
I'll find out what the TTAC is working on.
Maybe
Okay.
Sean, you and Tom and I can add that to our agenda setting, and maybe at least come in, if not have something signed off on, at least have something that we could bring to the July meeting to be voted on.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other non-agenda items?
Yes, Kate, Tom Murphy here. It is very possible that everyone on the commission and who's listening in has seen and heard Mayor Snyder's statement on the killing of George Floyd. Believe it was sent out in the form of an email on June 5th. If you have not seen and heard it, I commend it to your attention. As with the situation with the West Lynn police, and reflecting upon how fortunate we are to have Chief McAlpine, now looking at what is occurring with the mayor of Oregon City and juxtaposing that with Mayor Snyder's leadership in this time, it is, I think, a worthwhile reminder of just how fortunate we are in Tigard, and that the service that we render is well deserved.
Thank you.
And to follow up on that one, at our council meeting last night, it's online if people want to watch it. The first part of it, we spent a good 30-45 minutes really having a discussion about this topic. The chief is on there. There's eight kind of things that there's kind of a out there that they want police departments to change. 7 of the 8 things the chief did implement already. There was a part where they want it specifically outlined in the, well, I guess the manual or the code for the police department that there is no carotid artery maneuver. We don't train it. We don't do that. It was not in there, but there was nothing specifically said it was not allowed. So that was updated, I think, on Monday or the other day, a couple of days ago. Changes have been, some of those have been made where we don't do them. And as Tom has mentioned, we're very fortunate to have a great police chief that is out there, is active. But we don't do all these things, but just for transparency, we did make some changes and have those in there and had an in-depth conversation if everyone wants to go back and watch that. And also, additional note, there was a march, what was it, on Monday that started in downtown Tigard, went to City Hall and back, and the police chief was invited along with officers, and they had a lot of great conversations along the way, talking with different individuals and everything like that. So I think we're fortunate where we have a really great relationship between the public and the officers, but we are looking for feedback on anything that can be done, actually action items. The one thing we discussed last night too was that there's a lot of people talking about how they feel or what's going on, but we're looking for some action items the city can do.
Thank you.
Elise here.
Yes.
Sorry, thank you. Also, one more non-agenda item. I did see the protest. It was awesome. I was stuck at the intersection waiting for the second half of it to cross. But there's the resources that the city listed in the Tigard paper that came out to all the households. St. Anthony's is handing out free produce boxes, dairy boxes, and deli boxes to anybody who needs food. So please spread the word, and they can go to the St. Anthony's website or call St. Anthony's in Tigard. And it's Monday through Friday that they're handing these things out. And they have a huge grant, federal grant that they got, and they're working with produce companies all over the city, but we're handing them out locally. So please contact people that you know that might be in need and to come pick up those boxes.
Oh, good to know.
Thank you.
Any other items? Okay, then I will adjourn the June meeting, and I will be talking with all of you next month, if not sooner. So thank you so much for your time tonight and patience as we try out this new technology. Everyone take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Good night.
everyone.